Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of For the Fans podcast. Um, Start a new season. 2020 NFL season is officially underway as of what? About 6 hours ago, something like that. 5 or 6 hours. But yeah, with that being said, welcome everybody. Welcome to the start of a new season for everybody. Hope that your teams are doing good, but not as good as ours. But that's probably not the case because our teams are doing kind of bad right now. Oh yes. Oh yes, Duckmaster. We are going to be going into that. That's going to be a would you say that'd be a fairly big topic we're going to discuss tonight? Because it's both of our teams and kind of an interesting situation, but we have a lot of stuff to go over tonight. All right. So let's start off with a little bit of news right before we get into all of the meat and all of the fun stuff with our podcast tonight. McKay, do you want to give everyone the news to start off? Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Okay, hold on, everybody. Try real quick. I'm checking right now. You there, McKay? Well, that time I lost him completely. Let's see here. Oh, wait. I'm hearing you, and then you're cutting out. Um, not at the moment. What the heck is going on?
Not sure.
Oh, wait. I think you're alive again. Go ahead and say something else.
Test 1 2 3. I don't know why my mic is having problems all of a sudden.
Duckmaster,
Yeah.
can you hear? Okay, everything's working now. Okay.
Okay. If Duck can hear, then everyone else can hear. Perfect. All right. Let's get into this. Anyway, as I was saying, we like to start off each podcast with a little bit of news. This one's fairly big because it may affect how the next little bit of our season doing these podcasts goes, and really how the NFL will continue to function. Um, Obviously, with the outbreak of COVID-19, the sports world has come to a screeching halt. Um, this is normally my favorite time of the year because of March Madness and the looming NBA playoffs, and now I don't have any of that to enjoy. It's a very sad time in my house. As far as the NFL goes, I mean, yes, things are still up and running, but because there's not a ton going on, because people are trying to be careful and social distance with this virus going on, this may mean less broadcasting of our podcasts until things get back to normal and we start to hear a little bit more information. Because right now, there's a couple of teams that they're not doing anything at all. They are just keeping their staff socially distanced until this whole thing blows over. Shane, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I mean, this whole thing is kind of sad. I do think like it is important to keep your distance, practice social distancing. If you're sick, stay at home, kind of self quarantine yourself for about 14 days. Look up the symptoms. I think Google came out and said that they were providing like a free online like testing where if you feel like you're having any symptoms, you can search it and it'll basically ask you a few questions, you answer them, and it'll say whether you should go get checked out by a doctor or if you're most likely fine, it's just a common flu.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing, I know the only thing that we're going to say with this, Shane, is, wash your hands. We don't need this NFL season postponed because the virus still hasn't been contained, because that would really suck. Um,
Well, yeah, because like one of the
and
bigger things that happened for us at least is that since we're in Utah, we live fairly close to BYU. BYU basketball game, someone who had COVID-19 went to the basketball game knowing that he had it and potentially gave other people the virus as well.
oh, Shane, I just felt an aftershock here.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, we also forgot to mention we've been having earthquakes on and off today. Everything's fine where I'm at. It must be up towards where you are, McKay, but everything's
It
fine
was,
where I'm at.
it was really small too. Like it went woo for like half a second, and I was like, "Oh, I know what that was."
Yeah, it was a
So
5.7 earthquake this morning. How a lot
yeah,
of people woke up.
yeah, give me quite the rude awakening.
See, I was already awakened at work, but that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah, again, well, if it happens again, I guess we'll know while we're watching this, or while we're talking on this podcast. But yeah, that was funny because I was literally about to bring up something about it, and then I was like, "Whoa, that was an aftershock." All right.
But with this also being said, because of the virus and because of everything going around, stay safe, stay clean, wash your hands, disinfect all of your surfaces that you share. If you're in an office and you share a desk with anybody, wash that down. And the NFL draft will still be happening, but it will be without fans, so that's a little bit disappointing on our end just because of this whole epidemic.
Absolutely, but at the same time, it's done for the own public safety of all the fans, and hopefully it'll get contained soon, and we'll get back to the way things are. But for the time being, we can discuss all the very interesting and exciting things that have happened over the past few days when it comes to the world of free agency.
All right. So let's break it down with probably the biggest talked about one, I think is probably the best way to start, which is going to be Tom Brady is going to, or has at least been committed to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be their new quarterback, presumably over Jameis Winston. What this means is that the Patriots are kind of without a quarterback, and the Buccaneers and the rest of the NFL are kind of trying to figure out, are the Buccaneers going to be legitimate, terrifying team like they were back in like 2003, 2004 when they won the Super Bowl? Or are they still going to be kind of around where they are right now?
And that's something I don't really want to make a call on that until the season really gets going. If I had to be a betting man, personally, I think it would be more on the end of what Bruce Arians is able to do with the rest of the team, and with Tom Brady, that will really determine whether the Buccaneers will be a contending team, because they do play in the NFC South, and the Falcons are trying to upgrade their defense and be a little bit more on top of things this year. The Panthers have just upgraded. They've gotten rid of Cam Newton, and they have Teddy Bridgewater now as their new quarterback, which we'll go into that as well. And then, of course, there's the NFC South, where you have
You mean the New Orleans Saints?
But I said the NFC South as I was going to say,
Got
the
it.
New Orleans Saints top contender, usually.
Usually.
They're kind of the ones who always lead that division. And it's really interesting to see those two older players in Tom Brady and Drew Brees both going to be in the same division. And I think it might at least be a little bit fun to watch, really, when these two play each other, who comes out on top.
Twice a season now. Twice. And the interesting thing is, I think the NFC South could be probably one of the more fun divisions to watch. You got the Saints with Drew Brees. You got the Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater. You got the Buccaneers who now have Tom Brady. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan. Like, all of those have become fairly big names or have already been big names. So I think it's going to be a very strong quarterback division.
And I mean, two of them are MVPs. Three of them are Finals MVPs. Yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
But anything else we want to talk about with Tom Brady and the Patriots? Oh, the Patriots. Should we talk about the Patriots right now?
I think we should. Oh, let me retract what I said earlier. I meant to say two of them are MVPs. Two of them are Super Bowl MVPs. Matt Ryan does not have a Super Bowl MVP because of 28-3. But anyway, I want to make sure I got that out clear. I was like, wait a second. I said that wrong.
Yeah. The Falcons did not win that game, despite what a lot of
didn't.
people thought was going to happen.
Oh, anyway. But as far as the Patriots side, again, as you said, they don't have a quarterback right now. It puts a little bit of their future at risk as far as, I think the Patriots dynasty is done. And now it's really a question of, can they at least still stay in the game? But you know what? We're going to be talking about that a little later down the road, as far as what the future will hold for the Patriots. But I think for this point, Shane, we've covered, yes, Tom Brady's going to the Buccaneers. It could mean a big change there. here's the biggest thing that I want to touch on, more so than the future of the Patriots, the future of the Buccaneers. I want to touch on, Shane, how fans are feeling about this.
You know, it's funny that you brought this up because I was just scrolling on Facebook and I saw a video of a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan who was very upset that the Buccaneers grabbed Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
He started grabbing all of his Buccaneers fan gear, threw it in a box, threw it outside in the pouring rain, and started getting mad because he thought that Tom Brady is too old to be playing, that Jameis Winston was the future. And I wish I had that video right now because it was so funny. And you wouldn't think that let me put it to you like this. Everybody knows the name Tom Brady. Everybody has come to see Tom Brady as this amazing, beyond all comparison quarterback. And to see a fan get upset when his team trades to, or not trade, but grabs him in free agency is very interesting because you don't hear a lot of people getting mad that Tom Brady is coming to their team.
Well, let's put it this way, because I have a good friend as well who's a Buccaneers fan, and he is upset as well that the Bucs are taking Tom Brady and that they're likely getting rid of Jameis Winston. And he says the reason being is because he was hoping that maybe with Jameis Winston getting, I think it's like LASIK or something like that, that he'd be a little bit better. But Tom Brady, as he stated, he said Tom Brady's old. He's not going to be able to be, at the level that he has in the past. And his final words to me about that were when it became pretty clear that Tom Brady was going to the Bucs. He said, "I'm going to need to find a new team."
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting on how this is looking at. I mean, and we're talking a lot about like how Buccaneers fans are probably feeling about this, how they want to keep Jameis Winston, the younger guy, to fill in for if or when Tom Brady does retire, which very well could be in the next year or two, because I think he's like 43 or something.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about how Patriots fans are taking the leave of Tom Brady.
We can be pretty that's pretty self-explanatory, though. Patriots fans, a lot of them are heartbroken over the loss of Tom Brady. I think Boston fans are really upset too because first they lost Mookie Betts for the Boston Red Sox. He went to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then now Tom Brady's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it's kind of a tough time for them. They're thinking, wow, we're losing all of our great icons who have gotten us all of these championships. I know that some Patriots fans might be okay with losing Tom Brady because they think he's old and washed up. But the question is who do you get next? Maybe they're not as good as even Tom Brady when he was washed up. You don't know.
My thing is, I don't even know if the Patriots have anybody in line to take over now that Tom Brady's gone.
They have like Cody Kessler or something like that, but I don't know for sure.
But I mean, even with that, we'll get into this later. But like, the Patriots, I'm starting to look at what has been going on, and we'll talk about what they've been doing lately. But I'm wondering if the Patriots will even be a contender for the playoffs this upcoming season.
I was thinking the same thing. It's really hard to say. We'll need to see how the season shakes out. But I will be honest, I don't have high hopes for the Patriots this season. And to be honest, I don't have high hopes for the Buccaneers either. But we'll just have to see.
All right. But let's move on from Tom Brady, the Buccaneers, and the Patriots. We talked about them enough for now. We'll probably get into the Patriots a little bit later. Let's move on because we got a big list with all these different people coming in. Philip Rivers going to the Colts. Are the Colts going to be contenders in the AFC South once again?
I would just like to point out that before Philip Rivers even said he was leaving the Chargers, I said he would be going to the Colts.
Yeah,
I'd just like to point that out. That was my guess. I'm pretty happy I got it right.
I mean, I think we both had a few calls with a couple of them where we're like, okay, yeah, that made sense. That made sense. That was pretty easy. But do you think that this is going to make the Indianapolis Colts big contenders now that they have Philip Rivers, or do you think it's going to be another scenario where he's going to not be as strong as he was if he was ever that strong in the past 2 seasons?
You know what? I'm going to say that it does help the Colts having Philip Rivers on the team. I think it'll be nice too with Philip Rivers. He might have a better offensive line, gives a little bit more time to to make some decisions, so he has less interceptions. I think it actually could be a good thing, and yet I wouldn't say it makes the Colts contenders for the Super Bowl, but I would say that if anything, having Phillip Rivers fixing that issue as far as quarterback goes within the Indianapolis Colts, I think it will make the AFC South likely the most competitive division in the NFL. And I know some people might be saying, well, look what happened to the Texans. Look what happened to the Texans. I don't want to count that out just yet because of certain reasons, which we'll get into.
I mean, I'm just sitting here. I'm just saying here from an AFC South fan side, you got the Titans who put on a show this past season. You have the Colts who fell apart but could come back with Phillip Rivers. You have the Texans, which we'll talk about later. And then you have the Jaguars, which I hate to admit, I don't like how that's looking, but we'll also talk about that later. So I can see where you're going, but I also think that there are other teams that could be a little bit more competitive within the AFC.
You might be right. The way I see it, and I'll explain this as time goes on. But I don't know. I just feel like the AFC South, I can't necessarily pick a team that I think right now, that's likely going to be the team. Now, after what's happened with the Texans, like with things that are happening right now, like if I just had to take a guess right now, I'm saying for the AFC East, that's the Buffalo Bills. They got it. If it's the AFC North, I'm pretty confident in the Baltimore Ravens. As far as taking the division, the AFC West, it's Kansas City Chiefs. AFC South, I don't know. If you get into the NFC, that one gets the NFC East gets a little bit up in the air for me. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Dallas Cowboys, but I really need to see what they're going to do this season before I make that judgment. NFC North, my guess is the Green Bay Packers. And NFC West, probably the 49ers, maybe the Seahawks. And the NFC South, my guess is the Saints. But that's why I'm saying I think the AFC South is just that one team where I'm like, I want to say Titans, but I also want to say Colts, and I also want to say Texans, maybe. Sorry, I'm not.
Don't include the Jaguars in this. Just leave us alone this year.
But anyway, personally, I believe that the Colts could definitely make a run at taking the AFC South division with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we'll have to see. But let's move on. Phillip Rivers, we already talked about. Now, going on to the other part of the AFC South, we were talking about this a little bit. DeAndre Hopkins.
So weird.
This one is weird. I have no idea why the heck this happened. I know Texans fans that are very angry with Bill O'Brien right now. Traded away probably one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL today, DeAndre Hopkins, to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson, who's a fullback?
Yeah, running back.
So,
washed up running back at that.
Yeah, I was like, it doesn't bode well for what's going on. It got rid of Deshaun Watson's biggest offensive weapon. Oh boy.
Well, and here's where I don't understand the appeal for David Johnson, especially when you had to give DeAndre Hopkins away. First of all, let me say that the Cardinals came away big winners.
For yeah.
Kyler Murray now has a solid receiver to throw to.
Well, I mean, he has Larry Fitzgerald, but Larry's old.
Yeah, Larry's getting old. Here's the thing, Shane. I just want to hear your thoughts on this right now. If you had to pick 4 receivers in the NFL, like if you're doing a fantasy team and like they give you the option of you can only pick these 4 wide receivers, which 4 would you pick?
DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas are by far my top 2. I would say maybe Mike Evans. Oh, the 4th one's a little bit harder. I don't have a 4th one at the moment. I'm like stuck between a few people.
For me, it's DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas. I'd say, there'd be the first 2 options. If I had to pick other 2, I'd say Julio Jones and Amari Cooper.
I will say Julio Jones is my 4th. I would say Amari Cooper's maybe my 5th option.
Gotta stick with Mike Evans.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Mike Evans. He can do some pretty good stuff when needed.
This is true. This is very true. But anyway, we both agree that DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the business. And yes, the Cardinals are winning this big time getting him to go there. And I know some people are saying, oh, the reason DeAndre Hopkins went is because he is at odds with Bill O'Brien. DeAndre Hopkins denied those rumors, but it still doesn't change the fact that, you really question what the Texans are doing by getting away one of their cornerstone pieces of their offense in order to get David Johnson, who has been a very subpar running back for, the past few years. And is Bill O'Brien trying to change the game, trying to do more of a run than a pass game, give more options to Deshaun Watson? Because at this point, I'd rather just have Deshaun Watson be the running back like Lamar Jackson does, than have David Johnson as the running back. I don't see it from him.
But I mean, let's also look on who the Texans picked up to replace DeAndre Hopkins, which is Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb, if I remember right, he was a Packer a long time ago.
Yes.
And he was good then, but I feel like he's been getting shopped around a lot, and he's getting older. I don't think that the Texans walked away with anything good out of the plays that they have just made.
So Randall Cobb was with the other Texas team this past season. He was with the Cowboys.
Yep.
Personally, I mean, I didn't see that much production out of him. Yes, granted, he had to play in the shadow of other people who would get the ball. Amari Cooper or even Ezekiel Elliott when they do the run game. But I don't know. You pick an older Randall Cobb over a very fully functional DeAndre Hopkins and think, oh, you came away with a win of it because, this, you know what I'm saying? This is your consolation prize, Randall Cobb and David Johnson, but you had to give away DeAndre Hopkins. No, that's not doing it for me. I feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, Randall Cobb didn't have, like, a bad season per se. Like, last year with the Cowboys, he had 55 receptions for 828 yards. 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it's not like DeAndre Hopkins where you could throw it up and he's going to be solid with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like minor compensation, but why did you just get rid of one of your biggest pieces?
Yeah, it's something that baffles me. And I think it might come back to bite him when this season starts, but we'll see.
Speaking of big pieces, another big piece that was on the move, Stefon Diggs, went to the Buffalo Bills. As we saw last season, the Bills were able to put on a little bit of show in the playoffs, and they've been competing with the Patriots for the past little bit, trying to end the dynasty and take the AFC East. Do you think that the Buffalo Bills are most likely going to take it?
I would say yes, because the critical piece that the Buffalo Bills were missing last year was one surefire solid receiver for Josh Allen to throw to. Yes, he could give the ball to Singletary to run up. He could give it to Cole Beasley, who could sometimes come down with it. But when you get an elite receiver like Stefon Diggs, that really bumps up how good your team is. And the fact that they are still playing in an AFC East division, which in my opinion, is the weakest division. Yes, I understand, we talk about how the NFC East is a garbage pile, but I still feel like the AFC East, it's always one team. Yes, it was the Patriots for a while. Now it looks like the Bills because I don't see the Patriots coming up with many options right now. I feel like the Dolphins are still in rebuilding season right now, and I feel like the Jets will always be in rebuilding season. So,
see, to counter argue that, I do think the Bills are going to take it. But I will say the Dolphins might be the dark horse going into the AFC East. They have been making probably the most and the biggest moves this past offseason. So I think that they're a little bit of a dark horse going in. But I don't think that they're going to be able to top the Bills quite yet.
And see, I think maybe at best they'll squeak in for the 7th wild card spot, since the CBA has gone through and that will now be the playoff format. It's having 7 teams on each side, and then of course all the other stuff that comes with it, the 17-game season, all of that. We talked about that last week. But yes, even though now, yes, it did go through. But, you have these players like Kyle Van Noy. He went to the Dolphins. They just paid Byron Jones as well to be like the highest paid cornerback in the NFL right now. While those are good pieces, and I think that will certainly help the Dolphins, I don't think that they can truly be that dark horse team until you give say whoever they draft. So say if it's Tua Tagovailoa, if they give him some time to develop, maybe they can be good. But I don't see it this season.
The interesting thing is, and I'm going this completely off of big, giant ifs. There's been a lot of if where the Dolphins actually land Joe Burrow. If that happens, I will say I think Joe Burrow could be better in the NFL than Tua.
Oh, yeah, easily.
If that were to happen, I think we could see the Dolphins maybe not be in the 7th, but maybe be in the 5th or the 6th.
Perhaps, yeah, that's possible. But do we really think, the Dolphins have the 5th pick? Yes, they could trade up a couple, but do you really think that many teams are going to pass up on Joe Burrow? I don't.
I don't think it's likely, no.
Yeah. Anyway, we talked about how that might change the future of the AFC East, but what about the NFC North? There was talk that maybe Stephon Diggs was at odds with Kirk Cousins, who did just get extended by the Minnesota Vikings. Shane, you and I had talked at one point about the Minnesota Vikings being technically the NFC North top team this season. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really think that anymore just because they've lost Stephon Diggs. And sure, they can still do things with Dalvin Cook, but because of how Kirk Cousins plays and how it feels like he still can't really get into a good rhythm, especially in primetime games, I feel like the NFC North is still going to be in the hands of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
I mean, I can't argue with that. I think the Vikings took one step forward and 2 steps backwards. I feel like they came out of this as a little bit on the losing end between all of the trades and everything that just happened.
Mm-hmm. Look, I understand that Stephon Diggs wanted out, but I feel like, and this is just my opinion, I feel like the Minnesota Vikings did not make enough concerted effort to keep him.
I'll agree with that.
What went on behind, the scenes as far as, the front office and Stephon Diggs and his agent. But I feel like Diggs is very happy that he will be going to the Buffalo Bills, who seem like they're an up-and-coming team that could possibly win the Super Bowl in the next few years. Minnesota Vikings, I know you've made 4 trips to the Super Bowl, but they were all back in the early years of the NFL, and I think you're going to be waiting a lot longer for your Super Bowl.
That's a little brutal towards your division rivals.
Look, I have to be honest about it. I mean,
no, I agree.
Come on.
I agree.
The Minnesota Vikings, they've got 4 Super Bowls that they've gone to. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in 1970, and then they went twice in a row, losing to the Dolphins and to the Steelers, and then they lost to the Raiders. All of these were in the 70s. They got super close a little while ago with that Minneapolis Miracle, but then they get trounced by the Eagles. I don't see much of a Super Bowl future within the next few years for the Minnesota Vikings. If any other Super Bowl champion is going to come out of the NFC North in the next few years,
the Detroit Lions.
No, it'll be one Mary one from Aaron Rodgers.
Sorry, I wanted to throw in the Detroit Lions so bad because I feel like they're just. I feel like every division has a joke, and I feel like for the NFC North, it has become the Detroit Lions.
It certainly has. I did see one funny joke that made me chuckle. This is going to get a little political for a second, but it's the joke said if Mike Bloomberg, who was running for president, if he wanted to put millions of dollars into something that wasn't going to come to anything, he should have just bought the Detroit Lions.
I think I saw that. Oh, good jokes. Good jokes. All right.
Speaking of the NFC North, this one hurts.
So Doug, this is going back to what you mentioned, is my Jaguars are offloading quarterback Nick Foles that we paid for 4 years for $88 million or something like that. Had him for 1 season. He played maybe 4 games, and we traded him to the Chicago Bears for a contemporary 4th round pick.
The guy who was 0-4 last season, busted a clavicle, had three interceptions or 3 turnovers in 1 quarter?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. He is technically being conscripted as our backup quarterback for the Chicago Bears this year, with the hopes that he will provide good competition for Mitch Trubisky and will push him to the point where he needs to be that good quarterback.
Do you want to hear the joke that I found today about this?
Oh no, yeah, let's hear it.
Congratulations, the Chicago Bears now have 3 backup quarterbacks.
Just a third.
I don't know. Apparently, you guys had someone behind Trubisky.
I mean, there was Chase Daniel, but he just went to the Detroit Lions, so I don't
Oh,
know.
oh, I don't know. But maybe I don't know. But basically, your team was filled with backup quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, yes, technically, because Mitchell Trubisky, he plays like he should be a backup quarterback. And Nick Foles, his strength has come for being the backup quarterback. Yes, I understand. He stepped up to the plate and he won a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I, I feel like that was just a one hit wonder sort of thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I agree. I think it was a one-hit wonder. And in all honesty, I was excited when he came to Jacksonville at first because watching him through that season when he did win the Super Bowl, he did do phenomenal. He comes to Jacksonville, and even that like first little bit that he played in that first quarter, I knew that wasn't going to work. He was very pocket heavy, and the team is not built for a pocket passer. It is built for a scrambling quarterback.
But see, that's going to work out for the Jaguars. They come with a little bit of a win out of this. Yes, they have to eat 18.75 million in dead money because of Foles' contract, but it is clear that they will be going with a scrambling quarterback in Gardner Minshew.
Oh, okay. I will say, even though Gardner Minshew may not be the best quarterback in the league, he is by far one of the most entertaining quarterbacks in the league. He went on a road trip in an RV as soon as his season was done. He's like, I'm going on an RV road trip across the country.
Yeah, but as far as Nick Foles goes, which we're talking about here, you and I had talked about this. Um, I guess the best scenario that could come out of this is where, they bench Trubisky, they start Foles, Foles sucks, and then they go back to Trubisky, he's pushed, and then it's clear that, okay, Trubisky deserves to have the starting job.
Basically, you guys are paying like 60 million to find out if your current starter is worth being the current starter.
Foles is getting paid more than Trubisky right now.
Yeah, how does that make you feel?
Not good at all. I'm expecting. At this point, I'm like, okay, cool, Bears. You're running out of for your first round picks for that part's over now from the Khalil Mack trade. So what are you doing? What are you gonna do now? Are you gonna have both quarterbacks tank so you get the first round pick in the draft? Because sure, let's tank for Trevor Lawrence. Let's do this. Because I don't know. Ugh.
Hey,
I'm not.
remember a couple of weeks ago when I said, how funny would it be if Nick Foles was traded to the Chicago Bears?
I said it wouldn't happen.
You jinxed yourself with that one, didn't you?
I certainly did.
You know,
Anyway, we can. Yeah.
for your sake, as much as you and me like to banter with each other and mess with each other, I honestly feel bad for you guys. I feel like you guys came out as the biggest losers from this trade.
I would agree.
Even in like most trades in general, because my team has some bad trades, which we'll get into later. This is probably one of the worst trades for one team that has been this season so far.
I definitely agree. It was not a good call.
All right, but let's move on from this. We'll give this a little bit of a break. And we talked about this briefly earlier. Is that Teddy Bridgewater is now the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, and Cam Newton is angry.
So apparently, Cam Newton says that he was forced to seek a trade with with another team. We haven't heard any news on Cam Newton as far as where he's going yet, but Teddy Bridgewater will be the starting quarterback for the Panthers. I can't say much for Cam Newton, but personally, I think the Panthers are winners here because I think Teddy Bridgewater is a solid choice over Cam Newton because Teddy Bridgewater, yeah, he had that little scare earlier on, but he's been pretty good since then, apart from that injury that he had at one point. Whereas Cam Newton, that dude just keeps getting injured.
And I mean, let's hope that Teddy Bridge. I felt like Cam Newton, I will say, is a good quarterback. However, I do feel at the same time he did bring a bit more drama to the team than people, let's say, like Teddy Bridgewater will bring when he starts with them.
This is true.
Now the interesting thing is that when we were talking about like Cam Newton was forced out of the trade, so the Panthers tweeted out saying that we have given permission to Cam Newton to seek other teams to play for, to seek a trade. Cam Newton
Mhm.
comes out and responds with, I never asked to be traded. Why are you guys doing me like this, basically?
Right.
And that's when the whole feud kind of began. So I feel like Cam Newton liked the atmosphere of Carolina and of the Carolina Panthers, of just the people around them, but I don't think he got along with the front office a whole lot.
And maybe there's a bit of a hope that either with this new coach, with a lot of changes that are being made, that Teddy Bridgewater will be able to adapt to that and be a better fit than Cam Newton. But let's be honest, Shane. We talk about how good the NFC South can be. You've got Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. The New Orleans Saints being the New Orleans Saints, and hopefully this will continue. Maybe they'll even get a Super Bowl win this year. You have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got the possibility of Tom Brady being able to change things there. Then you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are trying to fix their defense, which is another thing too. They just got Dante Fowler from the Rams, who could possibly help, be a good improvement on their defense, which is where the Falcons are lacking.
He can be a
And
solid
then,
pass rusher.
exactly. And then Teddy Bridgewater, couple him with Christian McCaffrey. That's
gonna be a
a pretty good
dangerous duo.
offense. That's a pretty good offense.
I mean, they're not gonna be able to carry it completely off of Bridgewater and McCaffrey. They're gonna need some pretty solid wide receivers to come in, or
A
they're
tight
going
end.
to because they did just lose Greg Olsen, but I mean Greg Olsen was getting up there in age. They're going to need that tight end. They're going to need some good, strong threats for the Panthers to truly be successful this season.
Certainly, and hopefully they either fix that with the draft. I mean, hey, at this point, if the Panthers have their quarterback now, they'll go for probably a receiver in the or maybe offensive line for that. So they'll maybe get what is it, like Mickey Becton, or what was that? Oh,
Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah.
One of the bigger ones I've seen is Isaiah Simmons.
Right. Who can basically either be a secondary or be on the defensive line
to fill out Luke Kuechly's old role in the Panthers before he retired.
Exactly. But if they really want to go for a wide receiver, there's plenty. There's CeeDee Lamb, there's Jerry Jeudy, there's Henry Ruggs. I mean, they got options there. I think they've taken care of their biggest issue right now is they've gotten someone who can probably be a lot more stable than Cam Newton.
Yeah. But let's move on. So we did just say that Dante Fowler is going from the Rams, going to the Falcons, so that could help with the defense, could help with the pass rush game. Sorry, I couldn't think of the wording for a moment. And then let's move on. So here's a bigger kind of one. So one of the bigger questions that we had talked about previously is the Tennessee Titans. What's going on with the Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota situation? We finally have an answer with that.
Dude, Titans kept Ryan Tannehill to give him a big deal. They also franchise tag Derrick Henry,
which is obvious.
Which is obvious, of course. With that, of course, that means Marcus Mariota had to go. And he was picked up along with some other interesting names, Eli Apple and Jason Witten. They're all going to the Las Vegas Raiders, hopefully to work with Derek Carr and hopefully kind of bring the Raiders back into some relevance in their new stadium and in their new city. Shane, do you think anything is actually going to come from that?
I mean, the only person I can see coming out and being an immediate impact on the team is Eli Apple.
I would agree.
I was like, Jason Witten, I feel like he's just kind of slow. He's not going to be able to do as much as they're wanting. And Marcus Mariota, I think he'll either push Derek Carr or he'll become a backup.
Exactly. And we don't know. It's really hard to tell as far as what's going to happen there. It is interesting, though, that Derek Carr is keeping his job. That I find interesting.
It is a very interesting piece right now.
And the thing is because we talked about, will this change the Raiders? Could this make the Raiders, putting these pieces together, make them kind of give them new life, make them a better, one of the better teams in the AFC West? Possibly, yes. There's just one problem in the AFC West that really, I think, will prevent them completely from achieving dominance, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are definitely going to be the biggest threat among the AFC West for a long time.
I would agree. But yeah, that's the Raiders right there. That's some of their big deals. I mean, they've got some other ones in there but those were three names that I thought, oh yeah, we should talk about that.
But let's move on to. So we talked about this man earlier. He received a giant contract, and I think he definitely deserves it. Amari Cooper has been given $100 million deal.
And not only that, but the Cowboys also franchise tag Dak Prescott, so they're keeping him around for the long haul as well.
The interesting thing with this is, doesn't the $100 million deal make Amari Cooper the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL right now?
I like it, yes. I mean, Jerry Jones has the money, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But the big question with this, so with them keeping Cooper and Prescott, do you think the Cowboys will take the NFC East this year?
I feel like they are the best team to do that as of right now. They are the best team in the NFC East. They've got new, fresh blood with McCarthy being the head coach. I mean, yes, I understand he's a little bit older, but I still feel like the Cowboys are in the best position in comparison to the other teams as far as what they can do within their division. I mean, the Eagles, they haven't made really any changes. Carson Wentz feels like that dude's made out of glass. Washington, again, maybe if they add Chase Young, but I don't think that's going to do much. And the New York Giants, again, it's just I'm not seeing it with those teams, with the Giants or with the Redskins. It's not going to be their year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole NFC East is kind of in a rebuilding period right now. So it's just whoever slides into the playoffs, good for them.
Yep, for sure.
All right, and we also talked about a little bit about the Saints bringing back Malcolm Jenkins, so that's gonna be good for them and good for their defense.
We already mentioned Dolphins signing Byron Jones, making him the highest paid cornerback.
Now, some other news is Cleveland Browns, and this is where when we were talking about like the AFC North, you can see the Ravens taking it. I think the AFC North could get a little feisty with the Browns potentially. It's all going to come down to Baker Mayfield. The Browns did just pick up Austin Hooper and Case Keenum, so if Mayfield doesn't even pan out, they might throw in Case Keenum in there to prove himself again, because he did go on that run for a little bit of time with the Vikings, I believe.
Yes.
So when it comes to the AFC North, like I think the Ravens are the front runners, and then it's going to be a tie for second place between the Steelers and the Browns.
Let me take a second with that though. Just
yeah.
In my personal opinion, the second place will be the Pittsburgh Steelers, simply because they'll have Ben Roethlisberger back, and they're kind of like they're getting back into their own there. Things are going to start to be a little bit more normal there. The only way that I could see the Browns getting, overtaking the Steelers is it's something that I feel like really needs to be done. We've talked about before about how Baker Mayfield needs offensive line protection, and yes, he'll have a good check down option with Austin Hooper as his tight end. But I feel like for the Cleveland Browns to really succeed, they need to not put their faith in Baker Mayfield. They need to put it in Nick Chubb. They need to do it more in their own game. They beat the Baltimore Ravens last season. They were one of the two teams that beat the Baltimore Ravens in the regular season because they just went heavy with the run game with Nick Chubb.
And the way I'm looking at it is that it honestly looks like the Browns have all the pieces they need to be a legitimate Super Bowl threat, but they just haven't put the puzzle together. They have all the pieces for it, but they can't put it together.
Well, I feel like another missing piece was a proper coach. Sorry, but Freddie Kitchens was not it. Now, Kevin Stefanski, on the other hand, I mean, hey, he went pretty hard with Dalvin Cook when he was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe he'll do the same thing with Nick Chubb now that he's the head coach for the Browns.
And you also got to remember the Browns do have good options. So we talked about, like, in our Super Bowl episode, when we talked about how Patrick Mahomes has all of these very strong, very good receivers. We have a lot of those on the Cleveland Browns. We have OBJ. We have Jarvis Landry. We now have Austin Hooper. Like, we have a big tight end, and we have two good receivers. I feel like and we have Nick Chubb, who's a phenomenal running back. I feel like all of the pieces on the offense are there. They may need to bolster up their offensive line and just be able to have their quarterback make the right call at the right time, but if they're able to do both of those things, I think they can be a legitimate threat.
I would agree.
Yeah, but that's all I have to say about the Browns. I had to get that little wind out of me.
Sure. And then I think as far as the last two things that we're going to be talking about as far as free agency, we're still sticking with the AFC North. You know, the Bengals franchise tagged AJ Green. So if Joe Burrow does end up being that quarterback there, then he has a solid option provided that AJ Green is healthy. So, I mean, hey, that's some good news for the Cincinnati Bengals. That probably the most beleaguered team that's had the saddest season,
Oh
for this
boy,
past
yeah.
year.
And then
I know.
our last two we already talked about. One we already talked about. We talked about the Titans franchise tagging Derrick Henry and keeping Ryan Tannehill. And this one makes me sad.
Yeah, the one that has to still do with the AFC North
You mean
is
South?
Jaguars defensive end Calais Campbell goes to the Ravens.
Here's my thing, and I'm going to keep my soapbox very, very short this week because I love Calais Campbell. He was the face of the Jaguars franchise since he came in day one. He literally got nicknamed the mayor of Satsonville because of how good he was and how much he loved the town. Every single fan loved him. He was the face of that defense. He kept everything under control. They trade him to the Baltimore Ravens. And you're thinking, like, oh, he probably got traded, like, especially since he was the only player on the team to get voted to the Pro Bowl. The other two got in because other people didn't want to go in. And he had been in the Pro Bowl every single season that he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You think that we probably got, like, a second or third round? No, we got a fifth round pick for him. Yeah. And that was all. So, the only thing I'm saying with this, why the heck did we only get a fifth round pick for potentially our best, if not one of the best defensive players that we had on our team? Why only a fifth round pick for him?
It's a question you got to ask your front office.
Yeah, a lot of people have. I mean, if we were to, like, say who won and who lost, so, like, when we talked about, like, the Bears-Jaguars trade with Nick Foles, Bears lost heavily on this one. Jaguar-Ravens trade, Jaguars lost, I feel like, even worse than the Foles trade.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy, that's brutal. Anyways, so we both had two depressing things happen this offseason so far, so you can tell we're looking forward to this 2020 season where both of our teams are probably going to burn.
Probably both of them will be picking in the top 10 of the draft.
Oh man, I want to stop picking in the top 10. I want to be like 29 or even 32. 32 would be great. Okay.
But yeah, that's the big news that we wanted to talk about. Now the question is what teams look poised to make a deep run in the playoffs with these changes made in free agency? So essentially what I'm asking, Shane, is are any teams jumping out to you that you're like, these teams will be in the AFC or NFC NFC championship games?
Championship. Okay, so we're not even saying, like, barely making it into the playoffs. We're talking about going all the way to the championship game.
Run in the playoffs.
I think the Ravens, just from getting Campbell didn't look like he was slowing down at all, and the Ravens kind of kept a lot of their strong pieces. I think the Ravens just basically went up without losing anything, so I think the Ravens could potentially go into the AFC championship.
Mm-hmm. I would say another team provided they play their cards right, I think the Tennessee Titans could be back in the AFC championship.
I don't want to see that, though. I don't want to see that.
Buffalo Bills look like they could do really well.
Bills could do well.
They could end their lack of playoff losses, that drought.
And I will say, nothing has really happened to them. They're pretty solid, but this is the only reason I'm saying them. The Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. They haven't really lost too many pieces.
Right.
So I feel like they could be in a position to continue their Super Bowl run.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, let's look at from the NFC side. Who do you think is going to be the biggest front runner for the NFC?
Still got the New Orleans Saints, man. I mean, and the funny thing is like for some reason in my mind, it's only the New Orleans Saints. If not, maybe the San Francisco 49ers if they keep doing what they did this year. They're really the only two teams that I could see it right now. I feel like the Seattle Seahawks will make it to the divisional round. That's about it. The Green Bay Packers may again, I'm not quite seeing it for the Packers as far as making it back to the NFC Championship. And then the NFC East, forget it.
I was just saying, NFC East, forget it. We got the Packers, we got the Saints, and I mean, even with Brady in Tampa Bay, I don't think that much is going to come out of Tampa Bay. The only NFC West, I think, is probably going to be one of the more interesting ones to watch just because Kyler Murray now has a very strong offensive weapon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree.
But I think I'm with you. I think the New Orleans Saints are probably going to take the NFC. Hopefully, and I've talked about this many times, hopefully it will allow Drew Brees to go to the Super Bowl. And if he gets his win, I am okay with him retiring because he will have gone out on top.
Exactly.
All right. But we do have some other things. So we talked about that. We do have a few other big names whose future we're still unsure of at the moment.
Yeah. And so I guess the question here is who, where could they possibly go? We got we got four names here. Three of them happen to be quarterbacks that I think, we just thought we need to bring up these names. One is Cam Newton. He's already been discussed tonight. Jameis Winston has also been discussed tonight. He's another one. And then we have Andy Dalton, who technically, if he's going to leave the Bengals, he has to be traded. So we have to discuss, would that happen? And then the one name that's not a quarterback is Jadeveon Clowney.
And this is a very interesting situation. So Jameis Winston, I think if Tampa Bay plays their cards right, they might keep him in Tampa Bay for Tom Brady to kind of coach him up, kind of teach him how to be the level of a quarterback that Tom Brady is. That way, Tom Brady can retire in the next year or two, and Jameis Winston completely takes over again.
Right. If not, where do you think Jameis Winston could go? Because I have a theory, but I want to hear what you think.
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin. Let me look at teams who oh my gosh.
And what if you just switch him and Tom Brady?
I've heard talk about that, but
that's my thought. As like that might happen.
See,
if not, the only other quarterback destination that Jameis Winston could go to, which I feel like Cam Newton could also go there, is the Chargers.
Yep. I mean, I'm just looking at this, and it's coming down to a lot. So Andy Dalton, I think the Bengals might keep him. I think they realize that he isn't as bad as they say, as everyone thinks he is. So I think they're willing to stick it out with him for another season, just because their only two other options at quarterback are Jameis Winston, who has been notoriously bad, and Cam Newton, who has been on and off with his seasons.
Yeah. And then as far as Jadeveon Clowney goes, I feel like he could even possibly stay in Seattle. Is there a team that might want to pick him up? Yeah, I'm sure the New York Giants or the Washington Redskins would love to have him, but are they going to pay that money? I don't know.
I don't know if many teams are going to want to pay that money, which is probably why he's still on the board right now, is because he's wanting a lot of money, and he is a good, talented player, but I think no team's really to bite down on that paycheck that he is wanting at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So you talked about Jameis Winston potentially going to the New England Patriots, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if Cam Newton went there and Bill Belichick was able to kind of whip him into shape and kind of get him to straighten out a little bit?
See, I feel like that would be a recipe for disaster. You know why?
I feel like it could be, but the way I'm also looking at it is that it would be high risk, high reward.
It certainly would be. I just feel like Bill Belichick and Cam Newton, man, those are two personalities that are not going to mesh well.
They aren't going to mesh well, which is why I don't think that they would necessarily take them. But if that were to happen, I would see a Jameis Winston would go to the LA Chargers and be a backup to either Tyrod Taylor or take over, it'll all depend on what happens over there.
Yes, certainly.
But that's kind of all the big names. A lot of them are off the board, and there's a few left over. So, are you ready to get into our For the Fun topic for this week?
I'm excited for this one. I mean, I'm always excited for our For the Fun topics. We put a lot of effort into these, but yeah, this one's gonna be good.
So this one came about because I honestly saw this online through NFL's posting, and I was literally looking at it, and I was like, I feel like this is dumb. Like, I feel like it's literally just taking the most popular or what team sells the most jerseys, which for me is just saying here, it's like, well, yeah, some teams are just purposely marketed better, or just they have a lot of bandwagons fans because their team did well, so they're like, oh yeah, I'm a fan of this team because they're good. But what this is that which team in the NFL has the most loyal and kind of like the best fan base. And we're kind of breaking it down a little bit differently from what most people, which, by the way, McKay, if you want to know the result, so I saw the NFC one. The best fans in the NFC, according to the NFL, is the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
But we're gonna break this down a little bit differently. We're kind of looking at it where how loyal are the fans? Are the fans going to cheer and root for the team, win, lose, tie? Are they gonna be there through rain, snow, hail, lightning? They're basically going to stand by their team and just be overall awesome fans to not only their team but to other people that are there with them.
Exactly.
So we got some interesting matchups, and of course it's kind of going to be like AFC versus NFC to start it out.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. I do want to hear like everybody that's watching. I want to hear who they also think is the better fan base per general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to start it off, we always start off with the AFC East. The two teams that we're going to match up against each other as far as which one has a better fan base, it would be the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Shane, in your personal opinion, which has a better fan base?
I mean, I honestly feel that I'm going to go with the Bills because I honestly feel like now that Tom Brady's gone, I feel like a lot of Patriots fans are going to leave the New England Patriots. There are good, loyal New England Patriots fans, but the Patriots fan base was kind of a dead thing before Tom Brady showed up, and Tom Brady showed up, and everything just kind of rocketed for the New England Patriots. So I feel like now that he's gone, we're gonna see it go down, and I feel like it's more of a they don't have the most loyal fans. They have all of the bandwagon fans as of right now.
And that's kind of how I feel with the Patriots. Whereas the Buffalo Bills, I mean, come on, they haven't won a playoff game in years. And you still have, that Bills Mafia that is saying, hey, well, we're still here. We're still cheering for our team, even though they have not been doing all that well. I personally believe it'd be the Buffalo Bills over the Patriots.
All of those throwing through tables is finally paying off for something.
And I think we might finally see that. We will see our thoughts on this be manifested with the fact that we probably won't see, we won't see the Patriots dominating this season.
And Duckmaster even agreed, saying the Bills is his pick as well, saying that the Bills are probably the better fan base overall.
I would certainly think so.
Real quick, I just want to take like a brief pause. Can you imagine this upcoming season, Gillette Stadium being like half empty?
That'd be funny.
That would be so funny and crazy just because we haven't seen that in like 2 decades.
That's true.
Anyways, let's move on to the rest of it.
Okay, so the next matchup is still in the AFC East, and it'd be between the Jets and the Dolphins. Now, if I were to offer my opinion on this, I just feel like it's the New York Jets that are a bigger, more loyal fan base than the Dolphins. I mean, look at if we're going off of history, the New York Jets, I mean, they had their one Super Bowl win in 1969. And then after that, it's been kind of this thing where we haven't seen really much of them. since then, and they've got this embarrassing stuff with them, whether it's the butt fumble or they were the team that got spied on by the Patriots, that sort of thing. I just feel like in that case, these Jets fans, through all of the garbage that they've had to wade through over the past few years, they're still pretty loyal to their team. Whereas the Dolphins, I feel like I haven't seen it as much.
See, I wanted to make an interesting opposite take because having lived in Florida, like if you go near Miami, a lot of people are diehard Dolphins fans because that's where they are. I I think this is a harder one to say because it's kind of, for me, it's like flipping a coin. Both teams haven't done well in a while, but their fans are pretty loyal on both sides.
Yeah.
Because the way I'm looking at it is that most Dolphins fans have been there since Dan Marino.
Yes.
And they haven't really left since then. But both of these fan bases go back so far, and they haven't done a whole lot, and they've been in competition with the New England Patriots, so that kind of robs them out of the AFC East for playoff contention and a lot of other stuff. I honestly can't. I'm pretty 50-50 on this, so I'm willing to more lean towards the Jets just because that's what you think, and I honestly am basically at a dead even tie with the two.
Yeah, again, and now if I'm wrong and it's the Dolphins for a certain reason, perhaps, but I'm feeling the Jets.
I am fine going with the Jets. I mean, I think this is probably going to be like one of the tougher calls of deciding who has the best fan base. Both of them are very good. Both of them are loyal to their team. It's just it's kind of a toss up at the moment.
Yeah, I would say so.
All right. Let's move on to the AFC North.
For the AFC North, the first is between the Steelers and the Bengals. Shane, go ahead.
In all honesty, Duckmaster, I know that you're probably watching this, and I know that you're a diehard Steelers fans, and I met a lot of Steelers fans who have been diehard Steelers fans, and Duckmaster's even saying Steelers, obviously, no bias here. The thing is, the Steelers have been good, and they have been really good. And you guys have, like, all of your things. I know a lot of Steelers fans that have been loyal and continue to remain loyal, which is why I'm going to give the edge over them. Mm-hmm. On the flip side of that, though, the Cincinnati Bengals, like, how many Cincinnati Bengal fans do you know?
One.
Yeah, it's like, if you know one, you know that they are an actual fan because they are not very good.
Truth be told, that one fan who's a Bengals fan also says he's a fan of another team, so... Yeah, I'm with you as well that I would pick the Steelers over the Bengals just because I feel like Steelers fans have also still cheered for their own team over these past two seasons when the Steelers haven't gone to the playoffs. Through all of the drama that's been happening, whether it's Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell or even Ben Roethlisberger a few years ago, they still stuck with their team.
Yeah.
So I would give the edge to the Steelers.
And I mean, I even like the Steelers back from Troy Polamalu day. Like, that's when I actually really like the Steelers. I'm like, I like Troy Polamalu. I like the Steelers. Like, this man is awesome. Everything's awesome. Although, before we move on to the next matchup, we got to take into account, and this is going to push the Bengals up a little bit more, but not enough to pass. We got to look back to the man who literally locked himself up on the roof of either his house or the restaurant they owned, and he would not come down until the Bengals won a game.
Yeah, that's true.
I was like... If we were to look at that, that is pretty strong devotion towards the team.
Yeah, I'm still giving it to the Steelers.
Oh, same here, but Bengals.
It's just one Bengals fan.
Can you imagine that every Bengals fan just locked themselves up on their rooftop for the rest of the season until they won?
Well, that'd probably be me and only like 10 Bengals fans would do
that. Probably. All right, so let's move on to our next matchup, was going to be the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens.
I am actually going to give the edge to the Browns, simply because I feel like Browns fans, I mean, come on, that is the most lamentable team in the entire NFL. It's been so awful for them. But I feel like Browns fans, they're still there. They're still cheering. Yeah, they hate the fact they're not doing well. Whereas I feel like the Baltimore Ravens fans, they only come out of the woodwork when their team's doing well.
See, I like the Ravens back from the movie The Blind Side with Michael Orr. That's when I started to like the Ravens. I started taking a little bit more interest in the Baltimore Ravens themselves. And then they won the Super Bowl soon after that and with Lamar Jackson. But I think I'll agree with you for the main reason. Cleveland Browns are one of the oldest teams in the NFL. I feel like their fan base isn't necessarily like they get into football and they choose to like the Cleveland Browns. I feel like it's basically a torch that's passed down from generation to generation of just Browns fans back from like 1930 something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only way Cleveland Browns fans are Cleveland Browns fans is because it's either you live there and that's the only team you have to watch, or it's been a generational thing. It's literally like your dad just comes in, or your mom or your dad just comes in and yells at you. It's like, no, you're going to be a Browns fan. You're going to like it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
All right. So let's move on to our next team. We're going to hit the AFC West next.
AFC West. Well, this next one will be between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Shane, I do know. Sorry. I feel like the Broncos are one of the biggest bandwagon teams in the NFL.
Oh, I agree.
Up there with the Patriots and the Cowboys. So and Chiefs Kingdom, man, so many of them have waited so long for their Super Bowl win that they got this year. We don't even need to have further argument on that. Chiefs all the way.
I love how we're just calling it right here. I mean,
actually, how can you make the argument that the Broncos fans are better than the Chiefs fans?
you want to know what the funny thing is? Where we live is like very heavy Denver Bronco territory, and we're in Utah, and they're just like all of the football merchandise here is Denver Broncos, and
No, and I hate it.
I hate it too because for those of you that don't know, living in Utah is very interesting. No one cares about professional football, and the ones that do see the Denver Broncos stuff in the store, and they just decide to be a Denver Broncos fan without having, like, knowing anything about football or ever watching a game. They're just like, I'm a Denver Broncos fan, do or die. And I'm like, do you...
And everyone else is a Patriots fan because they bandwagon with Tom Brady. Ask my mother. He's one of them.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I got good parents. My parents were when I was born, they were Chargers fans back when they were in San Diego. So they had the whole Phillip Rivers thing with the whole Eli Manning fiasco. But they were big Chargers fan. My mom still is. My dad used to be a Miami Dolphins fan, became a Chargers fan, and now he's a Jaguars fan.
Looks like he's bouncing all over the place.
he kind of lost. Well, he was a Dolphins fan. They lived in San Diego. He grew to love San Diego and just the team and loved Rivers and everything. And then they moved the team out of San Diego to LA, and that's kind of when he fell out of it.
I gotcha.
Anyways, Chiefs Kingdom all the way. No further contest.
Yep. But as far as the other side of the AFC West, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Shane, this isn't really much of a question on this one either.
This one is the Raiders.
It's the Raiders. Raiders fans are some of the most diehard fans in the NFL. Chargers fans, I feel like there's hardly any of them most of the time.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think if we were talking before the move happened to LA, this might be a different story. But when they moved from San Diego to LA, I think the Chargers literally lost like 2/3 of their fan base just from the move itself.
And I know a lot of Raiders fans decided, oh, go Niners when the Raiders decided to leave Oakland, but I still feel like they're pretty diehard.
Yeah, my grandfather's a Raiders fan. Don't know why. He tells me, he's like, from back when he was like growing up, he's like, oh, the Raiders are filled with all the bad boys, all the tough guys. And my family looks at them, they're like, yeah, they're not nothing anymore.
Yeah.
It's just fun. But definitely I would say Raiders, the Black Hole, they are very, very passionate about their team.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the AFC South side of things.
So the next one that we have is the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Shane, what do you think?
See, this is hard because this is my division, so actually, like, it's very, very interesting because it varies depending on the year. Back when Peyton Manning was around, everybody was an Indianapolis Colts fan. As of now, though, with Deshaun Watson, I feel like a lot of the Colts fans kind of went into hiding, but there's still a good amount there. But the Texans fans are still really strong. This one I think is gonna be one of the other really tough matchups.
Hmm. I'm gonna go with the Colts just because they've been around longer, so we see more of it, and they've stuck through it all. But I can understand there are a lot of very devoted Texans fans.
Yeah, especially if you live in Texas. You're either a Cowboys fan, which who wants to be that, and then you're a Texans fan. Oh, I mean, I want to give the edge to the Texans just because they have to deal with the Dallas Cowboy fans possibly on a daily basis. And that's enough just to be a Texans fan because, I mean, we all know how annoying Cowboys fans is, and to adamantly be a Texans fan and you have to see a Cowboys fan like every day, like it would be hard not to just say, yes, I'm a Cowboys fan, just so you could get the Cowboys fans to leave you alone.
Seriously.
But I will say, I think the Colts have been longer, so I think I'll give it to the Colts.
Okay, well, what about your team and the Titans? Jags versus Titans.
I mean, is this one even a question?
What if I were to play devil's advocate and talk about, those really die-hard Tennessee Titans fans?
What die-hard Tennessee Titans fans? I went to Tennessee because my sister-in-law lives there. They have some Tennessee Titans gear, but even when they were doing good this past offseason, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't really like the Titans.
All right, well, I can't argue with that. Literally, if you've been there and you say that's the way it is, I can't argue with that.
I'm also going off of this. So, if we were to take into account that, like, both fans are very passionate about their teams, both fans are very adamant and very loyal to their teams. The entire AFC South hates the Titans and hates the Titans fan base. So, does that mean that they are very good fans? Probably not.
Yeah, that's true. It might be a little annoying, but maybe hey, they're pretty devoted to their team. I don't know.
I mean, there's so much like history and just people do not like the Titans. Like, I don't even meet like very diehard Titans fans. Like, I feel like when you normally like try to talk to a Titans fans, they just kind of shut down about being a Titans fan, except for maybe this past year.
Again, I don't know because I only know one Tennessee Titans fan, but I also only know one Jaguars fan.
Woo! Yeah, you don't want to come to my house. I think I have like 7 Jaguar cups, a Jaguar mouse pad. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff.
I got a lot of Chicago Bears stuff.
I've seen some of it.
I have a shelf dedicated to the Bears.
I want one dedicated to the Jaguars. I keep telling my wife, I'm like, when we like buy a house and everything, and I have my own personal office, I'm painting the walls in Jaguar colors. Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work out for me, but I hope it happens because I would love to do it. All right, so I think that wraps up the AFC side of things. So let's quickly run through the NFC.
For the NFC, and we'll just try and keep these explanations brief. But okay, moving on first with the first one is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. I haven't seen even now. You don't see anyone at FedEx Field, so the Eagles win that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, are we even really throwing this matchup in there? I mean, yeah, Eagles. Even before the Super Bowl, it was the Eagles.
True. Very true.
All right, now here's for the other big bad NFC East matchup: the Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants. My goodness.
Now look, with this, I understand that Cowboys fans are obnoxious. They are one of the most annoying fan bases in the NFL.
Voted the most annoying. I think so.
Yeah, they are the most annoying fan base in the NFL. But the thing is their fans are more loyal than Giants fans.
I can't argue with that, honestly. I mean,
you got to give that one to the Cowboys.
They are loyal to the end. All right, so here's the fun one for you. We're going to go into Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers.
This is an easy one.
Is this biased in any way?
It's not. It's the Packers.
Oh.
Because Chicago Bears fans, if they're not happy, they whine and whine and whine and whine some more.
Do you need some cheese to go with that wine?
Yeah, probably from the Packers is where that cheese comes from.
Probably.
There's so many Bears fans that I know that like they, even when the season is going well, even when we had a good season last year, they always found something to complain about. Packers fans, I mean, come on, Lambeau Field is owned by the fans. The Packers win this one.
I will say I know about equal amounts of Bears and Packers fans, which is more than one each. Mm-hmm. It's about like 3 each, and I will say like even though like you're giving it over to the Green Bay Packers, both of your guys' fan bases are fairly loyal. I think like once the bandwagon leaves the Green Bay Packers, you're still going to have those die-hard Green Bay Packers fans.
Sure. And now I will say this. Yes, Bears fans are very, very loyal. The difference is, though, is that when the Packers are struggling, like those past 2 years when they didn't make it to the playoffs, you didn't have Packers fans who were saying, oh, you know, do this, do that. I mean, yes, they didn't like McCarthy there, but they are not as outrageous as Bears fans are when things are going wrong. Granted, they don't have things go wrong as often as the Bears do, but still.
Yeah. Like the Nick Foles trade.
Yeah, exactly. Case in point.
I mean, I'm not trying to throw anything at you, but like, I don't blame you guys for whining about that one, because that one's just dumb.
Yeah.
All right.
But yes, Packers win that.
All right, so let's move on to Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions.
This I also feel is not a competition.
Who are you thinking?
It's the Vikings. Have you heard that skull chant with them banging that drum? Oh man, Vikings crowds are so much crazier at US Bank Stadium than any Lions crowd is at Ford Field.
But see, here's the thing. I'm actually going devil's advocate. I'm saying Detroit Lions because growing up, there was a kid who was a quote-unquote diehard Vikings fan, and he legit came over to my house when the Chargers were in the playoffs and some other team, and they got knocked out of the playoffs by like some other team. And he started like rubbing it into my dad's face, and my dad's like, "What team are you a fan of?" And he said like, "Whatever team beat the Chargers." He's like, "No, what's your actual team?" He's like, "The Minnesota Vikings, but they're bad this year."
I mean, he's being honest about it, but the thing is, I mean, Detroit Lions fans are a lot like Chicago Bears fans. They whine and they whine and they whine and they whine.
I mean, I'll definitely give it to the Vikings, but I'm gonna give this one last point. The Detroit Lions fans did have to suffer through an 0-16 season.
The Browns fans.
I know, and the Browns fans won theirs. I mean, I will say the Vikings, they are pretty loyal when it comes down to it, but Detroit Lions fans, I'm not going to count them out for the main reason. They have endured 0-16. They've endured a lot.
Okay, all right.
All right, so we're going to head to our second last division, which is going to be the NFC West.
Mm-hmm. First one up is the Rams versus the Cardinals. Again, this is another one where I don't feel like it's much of a competition here because Los Angeles is not a football city. They are Lakers, and during the summer, they are a Dodgers city. It is the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. LA does not like football, and I don't know why they have 2 football teams.
It's really sad.
Seriously, the Chargers need to go back to San Diego, and the Rams need to either go back to St. Louis. Yeah. Like, just go somewhere else. Like, leave LA. LA is not doing any favors for both of their teams.
Oh.
Sorry, tangent. I'm trying not to. All right. So, next one in the NFC West, we have the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm with the Seahawks.
I'm with the Seahawks all the way. 49ers fans were non-existent like a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, but Seahawks fans, they're always there. They're obnoxious too, but they're always there.
And they have I think they have the record for the loudest like cheer within a stadium in the NFL.
They do. Yep, the Seahawks win that one, no problem.
Yeah, that one's call it a day. That's an easy one. Now we're gonna move into the NFC South, where first matchup we're gonna have the Saints versus the Falcons.
Got the Saints.
Oh yeah, I even like the Saints. I'm not the biggest fan of the Falcons, but I think the Saints are just like they are passionate about their team.
Falcons fans are very loyal too, but I feel like the Saints win this one.
Especially since the Saints are still with them after all the times the Saints have been robbed.
There you go. Case in point.
I mean, the referee, like everything bad that could have happened to the Saints to prevent them going to the Super Bowl has happened.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, I mean the only thing I think the Falcons have is 28-3.
Pretty much.
All right, let's move on to the last team of the Panthers and the Buccaneers.
I'm going to have to say the Panthers strictly because there's been so many times where the Buccaneers they haven't been able to get anyone to come to their stadium to their games, even with a giant pirate ship there.
I mean, I'm gonna say this. I've lived in both Tampa Bay and both Carolina. Like, from my house in North Carolina, like we were about like 10 to 20 minutes away from Bank of America Stadium. In all honesty, I like Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I personally think their stadium's cooler. I think a lot of the atmosphere is a lot cooler. But Carolina Panthers fans, they have North and South Carolina rooting for them, and boy, are they like... if you are a Panthers fan, you are a Panthers fan.
Yeah.
There is no other team that... Like, you are strictly Carolina Panther all the way. And the Panthers have had some cool players in the past, like Steve Smith. Super awesome dude.
Okay, so now recapping as far as like, moving it on to essentially the next round of this bracket. Let's just we've given our reasons for why each team is there. Now let's talk about who wins.
All right.
Moving on from there.
All right. So, first one we have, what did we say, the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets? I got the Bills.
I do too. So let's move on from there.
Okay. Pittsburgh.
The Bills win the AFC East.
Yep. All right. AFC North. We had, the Steelers and the Browns.
I am going to go with the Steelers just because their fans, I mean, yes, their fans have had, more winning seasons than the Browns, but I feel like there's a more abundant amount of loyal fans to the Steelers than there are to the Browns.
I'll give Duckmaster a little bit of brownie points with this one. I'll say the Steelers as well. I think they beat out Browns fans. Whew. Okay.
Here's a tough one.
Oh. What, the Chiefs and the
Raiders?
Oh, yeah.
Both are very loyal to each other. But I think I would say just because of the fact that, the Chiefs, it's always stayed in one place. They've gone so long without a Super Bowl, and all those people have still been there. I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Raiders.
I think I'll go with the Chiefs, too. That one is a tough one. So, right now we have the Bills, the Steelers, and the Chiefs. So, all that's left is the AFC South, in which, we said, the Colts
and the
Jaguars. I love my team, and honestly, if you are a fan of the Jaguars, you are a fan of the Jaguars. But I've just seen so many negative fans with the Jaguars lately that I think I'm going to go with the Colts.
I think I just have to go with the Colts as well, too. I just feel like because of their history and everything like that, too, there's more of a fan base there.
Yeah, and I also feel like the Colts complain a lot less, like, on every Jaguar thing that I see, like, there's always at least, like, half the fan base that's unhappy about something.
Yeah.
I think one person said that somebody needed to fire Shaq Khan, who's the owner of the franchise. So.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Like.
But yeah, the Colts win.
Yeah, let's move on from that. That one makes me sad. Anyways, the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Eagles fans are really intense, and the thing is like even when they, it took them that long to get a Super Bowl, and they were still really intense. I'm taking the Eagles over the Cowboys.
I'm taking the Eagles as well, just because I feel like the Cowboys, like, yes, you guys are loyal, but like, you guys will win one game a season, and act like you're the greatest thing in the world. Like, I get being adamant and passionate about your team winning, But it's literally the Cowboys can have 11 losses. They'll win their first game and they'll act like they're going to the Super Bowl.
Pretty much.
So let's go with the Eagles on that one. Eagles are going to take the NFC East. Let's head to NFC North where we have the Packers and the Vikings.
Packers. I mean, I just think they're more loyal than the Vikings fans are.
Yeah, Packers. I think Packers have just been around forever, and if you grew up as a Packers fan, you are a Packers fan.
Yep, exactly.
All right, Packers are going to take the North. We got the Rams and the not the Rams, the Cardinals, and I'm tuning out now.
Cardinals and the Seahawks, but the Seahawks win that.
Yeah. Thank you. My brain honestly died for a moment.
So Seahawks take the NFC West.
All right, and then we have the NFC South where we had the Saints and the Panthers.
Saints.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Saints as well. Sorry, Panthers. Like, you guys are strong fans, but it's the Saints.
Okay, so now let's pit the Steelers versus the Bills.
Oh. See, here's the interesting thing. I think both of these fans are very passionate about their team.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit harder.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna come out and say it. I'm going with the Bills on this just because, again, you still got Bills Mafia, you still got all that hype, and the tables and everything like that, despite the fact that they haven't been able to win a playoff game in so long.
Sorry, Duckmaster. I think I'm gonna go with the Bills. McKay, I'm going with them solely because you said the tables, and that just made me think it's like you have to be a very loyal fan to literally just throw yourself through a table from like on top of everything. They light the table on fire and then jump through a table, stand up, and some other person just comes in and slams them with another table.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Yep. But who will the Bills face?
It's gonna be
Chiefs and the Colts.
It's
the Chiefs.
You're gonna say the Chiefs.
I'm gonna say the Chiefs over the Colts.
This is a tough one, but I think I'll go with you with the Chiefs because I think Colts were like absolutely dead until Peyton Manning showed up.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had their moments in the early days of the NFL. But
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it's gonna be Bills and the Chiefs for the AFC Championship of fans. NFC side, though.
Packers and Eagles? This is a tough one.
Oh, man. I honestly want to go with the Eagles on this one.
You know what? Yeah, I'm going to as well, just because they're intense fans.
They are. Like, I mean,
put it this way: Packers fans, I feel like they're more family friendly. Eagles fans, not so much. I feel like they go hard.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because the Eagles used to actually have a courtroom in their stadium because their fans would get so passionate and start fights with anyone who started bad mouthing their team, and they would go to court and dispute it right then and there.
So let's go with the Eagles.
I was like, just from that alone, it's like, oh yeah, Eagles might they might just kind of tear through some people.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got the last part of the NFC. Who are the Eagles going to face?
Either the Seahawks or the Saints. Can I just say one thing as far as who I think wins it between those two?
Yeah.
How petty and intense of a fan base do you have to be that after your team loses the NFC Championship game, you broadcast on every highway billboard, "We were robbed."
Oh. Yeah. Duckmaster also chimed in. He said, I heard from a friend that in Philly, the city had to grease poles because the fans wouldn't stop climbing them after they won the Super Bowl.
That sounds about right.
I remember that, actually. Like, when the Eagles won their first Super Bowl, it was literally like, it basically was the world was ending for them. It's like, life is complete. I have nothing else to live for. We can destroy the world now. Oh, boy. Yeah, but so for the final, you're saying the Seahawks take it?
Oh, I'm saying the Saints.
Oh, Saints. Got it. Yep. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Seahawks are pretty diehard and they are loud, but man, Saints been through a lot.
Yeah.
All right. AFC Championship. Let's see. We have the Buffalo Bills. Wow, the Bills Mafia has come far. Versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I was like, this one's not going to be easy.
Well, because we're constrained for time, I'm just going to say the Chiefs because that's what I'm feeling right now. I just feel like they beat out the Bills for this. I mean, they waited so long, they finally got their Super Bowl win. You can see how passionate they were. I went with the Chiefs.
I'll agree with the Chiefs, but the Bills are definitely probably the second best.
Yes, for sure. And then for the NFC?
Oh boy, I got to give it to the Eagles there.
I know, I do too. Okay, so it's the Chiefs versus the Eagles for who has the craziest, most loyal fan base.
Oh boy. Oh man.
Why do I want to give this to the Philadelphia Eagles?
I want to as well.
All right, let's just call it. We'll just say that it's the Eagles in our opinion. The best fan base is the Eagles.
And now we're not saying that they're the most friendly, but they are by far the most loyal and the most die-hard fans that you will probably ever meet.
Oh yeah. They're pretty hardcore.
Oh, and if you ever like befriend an Eagles fan, they are awesome. My wife's cousin is a very big Eagles fan. Every time I meet up with him, we talk football, and boy, he was happy when the Eagles finally won. Like, I give props to them. The Eagles have been through a lot. They definitely deserve that Super Bowl win, and I'm glad that they were able to get that one. I'm still waiting on my team to get theirs.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready for another one from mine too. But anyway,
at least you guys have one.
Sure, but I wasn't alive for it.
That's true. I was born the year my team came out. But that about wraps up our For the Fun topic, which I think wraps up our night tonight.
That'll do it.
Alright, everyone, it's definitely been fun hanging out with you, kind of discussing free agency, what's going on at the start of the new NFL season, all the different transactions made, talking about what big names are left, and doing this mini fan base bracket.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a party, and I always have a laugh with stuff like this.
I mean, it's definitely some like very interesting topic, and like if you guys have like anything that you want to see on For the Fun, like just message us on here or message us through Discord. You can see the link down below on the Twitch channel where it will have the Discord box. You just click on that, you can join it, and you can just post an idea that you want to see in a For the Fun topic. And me and McKay will look it over, read it over, and talk about and discuss on like, because when we plan this out, we kind of plan out like if we think that this would be a truly interesting topic or a topic that we personally would enjoy talking about.
And this is one of those ones where like, oh yeah, this will be entertaining.
And it very much was, because I honestly did not think that the Buffalo Bills would go as far as they did.
I didn't either.
I was honestly thinking, I'm like, oh, they might win the first round, but they'll probably get out like the second round. No, they went far. But it's like things like that that's like fun to talk about, and we want you guys like encourage other people to join in, because everyone can join in on the fun, give kind of like this would be like a good one to have like a lot of people, because everyone could be kind of like saying like, well, my team's the best because of this, my team's the best because of this. Like, it'd be a good way to kind of like get this conversation going and kind of just talk about football all around.
Yeah, definitely.
With that being said, give us a follow, give us a like if you're watching on YouTube as well. We've had a lot of fun. We're going to continue doing this. As we said earlier, our stream schedule may be thrown off a little bit just due to COVID-19. With that being in effect, we don't know how much news we're going to get with this offseason as of right now, just because everyone's kind of practicing social distancing and a lot of things are shutting down to kind of prevent further spread of the virus.
But when we do get info, and if we have enough that we're able to put together a podcast, we will.
Yeah, and if you guys also see on our Twitter, I've been going through, and for the past like day or two, just with the off season starting, I've been basically, as soon as like I see a news article, it's like, hey, this person's talking about going here, it has been confirmed that this person is joined here. I've just been retweeting it, so you guys follow that our podcast Twitch channel, or not Twitch, Twitter channel. You can get those updates as soon as we find them as well.
Definitely.
Anyways, we hope you guys had a nice night, and we look forward to seeing you guys again in about 2 weeks. It's been a lot of fun. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode and tell your friends about it.
And then until next time, take care, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, everyone, have a nice night.